There's a very specific kind of frustration that comes with being told you're smart, but then you find yourself struggling with things that just seem to be second nature to everyone else. You can break down a complex philosophical argument, no problem, but then you're standing in a grocery store aisle, completely paralyzed by a simple choice. We tend to just call this a lack of common sense, but honestly, the truth is a little more unsettling than that.
Okay, let's just get right to the heart of it. The issue isn't that you have a deficit, it's that you have a surplus. Your struggle isn't a sign that you're missing some piece of the puzzle. No, it's a sign that your brain is processing the entire puzzle, the box it came in, and the table it's sitting on, all at the same time. It's just built for continuous, deep analysis, even when a simple glance is all that's needed. And this is absolutely crucial. A highly analytical mind doesn't just see the world differently, it experiences a fundamentally different reality. While a lot of people move through life on this kind of shared, automated autopilot, your brain is busy deconstructing, questioning, and rendering every single moment in high definition. For you, nothing is ever just simple.
And that right there, that brings us to the central paradox of this whole experience. It's this deep and honestly often exhausting conflict between your ability to handle immense complexity and the challenge of navigating a world that, for the most part, runs on simplicity.
So on one side, you've got this incredible engine for high-level problem solving, but on the other side, you have these common sense tasks, which aren't about deep processing at all. They're all about quick, surface-level navigation. The thing is, your mind almost never accepts things at face value, so it feels like you're bringing a submarine to explore a puddle. That disconnect, it can feel incredibly isolating. And this quote, it just nails the internal experience, doesn't it? What looks like a simple walk across a room to everybody else is, to you, a board filled with potential moves, consequences, and patterns nobody else sees. You're carrying the cognitive weight of all this constant processing, and that makes even the most straightforward situations feel layered and intensely complex.
So, to really get this, we have to look at the two different operating systems that are at play here. This isn't about a lack of information. It's a conflict between what we can call the automatic mind and the analytical mind.
So what is common sense, really? Well, it's not a measure of intelligence. A better way to think of it is as a collection of mental shortcuts, like a social algorithm that's designed for really rapid, efficient, but ultimately shallow interaction. It's all about getting from point A to point B without overanalyzing the journey.
Now, when you put them side by side like this, you really see the trade-off. The automatic mind, which is what governs common sense, is fast. It's instinctive. It just accepts the surface value and moves on. Your brain, though, it defaults to the analytical mind. It's deliberate, it questions everything, and it is relentlessly seeking a deeper meaning. It prioritizes cognitive depth over speed every single time.
So, what are the mechanics actually driving this whole thing? Let's dive into the underlying psychological machinery. Because this isn't some personality quirk you need to fix. It's about how your brain is fundamentally wired to operate.
Let's start with what so often gets dismissed as overthinking. Psychologically, it's really about processing more variables at the same time. Your brain is a pattern matching machine that just never turns off. It's constantly running simulations about what might happen next and searching for meanings that are hidden beneath the surface. This isn't some anxious habit. It's your brain's biological default setting.
And then there's this fascinating ability called cognitive inhibition, or the pause. This is that little mental gap between something happening and your response to it. It's where you consciously choose your action instead of just reacting instinctually. Now, while this leads to much better judgment, to an outsider who just reacts instantly, it can be misinterpreted as you being hesitant, detached, or lacking social instinct. And that pause often leads to what you could call a social mismatch. Your mind might be working with abstract concepts 5 steps ahead of the actual conversation, which is exactly why small talk can feel so incredibly draining. You're not just following the rules of the conversation, you're busy analyzing the structure of the game itself. It's not arrogance, it's just a fundamental difference in cognitive pacing.
And this cognitive engine, it produces very specific, very real-world results. You're probably highly sensitive to flawed logic. Repetitive, predictable routines can feel like actual cognitive starvation. You have this deep-seated need to understand the why behind a rule, not just to follow it. And all of this can make life feel like a constant battle to find enough mental stimulation to feel truly engaged. So how does all of this actually play out in the real world? Let's just walk through a common scenario to see how this analytical engine experiences a world that was really built for automated processing. Okay, let's take a simple, everyday example. A standard procedure at work. Something everyone is just expected to do, no questions asked.
For most people, that's all it is, a routine. It's just a box to check. The common sense approach is to simply do it as instructed and move on. The task is the task. End of story. But you see something else entirely. Your mind automatically starts to deconstruct it. You see the logical inconsistencies. You see the long-term inefficiencies. You spot the potential risks everyone else is just ignoring because their minds aren't wired to even look for them. The common sense way can actually feel mentally painful. Think of it like this. Common sense often requires ignoring about 90% of the available information just to make a quick decision. Your brain, however, is built to analyze that other 90%, the nuance, the context, the consequences. It resists taking that mental shortcut because it's completely captivated by the rich detail everyone else has just thrown away.
And this is so important to understand. When someone accuses you of overcomplicating things, what's really happening is that you are processing reality more fully. You aren't making things difficult. You are simply aware of the layers and patterns that are basically invisible to the automatic mind.
So where does all that leave us? Let's get to our final section. Because the goal here isn't to fix some kind of flaw. It's to understand a fundamental difference in how you process the world, and in doing that, find a much more empowering perspective.
First, we have to be real here. It's vital to acknowledge that this way of thinking has real, tangible costs. The constant mental activity, it leads to deep exhaustion. The heightened awareness of risks can lead to chronic stress. And that social mismatch we talked about often results in a profound and painful sense of being misunderstood.
But what if we reframe that cost? These struggles are not evidence of some personal failing. They're the price you pay for cognitive depth. They are the unavoidable side effects of having a mind that experiences the world with greater intensity, greater clarity, and greater awareness.
So here's the bottom line. The solution is not to try and force your analytical mind to behave like an automatic one. You can't. The real goal is to understand how your own mind works, your unique operating system, and then learn to work with it, not against it. It's about finally giving yourself permission to be the way that you are.
Ultimately, this just means letting go of the expectation that you should experience the world in the same simplified way as others. It's about embracing the complexity you were built for. After all, if your mind is designed to solve a three-dimensional puzzle, why would you ever judge yourself for not being satisfied with drawing a straight line?